That's right guys, you read the title correctly. Today is going to be the last day I have with my BRZ. So 6 years and 60,000 miles later, I'm finally getting rid of this car. Like I never really knew when this day would come. You know, I've always loved this car. I want to keep this car forever, but the time has come and it's time for me to get rid of the BRZ and get something else. And there's a couple of reasons for this and I'll explain it to you guys in a bit. I know most people aren't really car people and they don't really understand. They don't have that like bond and connection that we car guys have with our cars. And me and this car have been through a lot. And I think the craziest thing is how much a car can teach you and how much you can learn from a car and just the experiences you have with this car. I've done so many things with this car. You know, my dad and I, we built this car in this garage just by ourselves, no help, just the two of us. We did everything on this car, my dad and I did. Like every single piece. It's like a big part of me. It's like I'm letting a big part of myself go. But sometimes in life you have to, you know, you have to move on, you gotta let things go. And I hate to say it, but I'm gonna be letting this thing go. Whoever ends up getting this car in the future, wherever this thing goes, I hope it's taken care of well. I hope it's taken care of like just as well as my dad and I took care of it. And I hope whoever has this car is gonna enjoy it. This BRZ is almost the perfect car for me, but the key word is almost. The car is really good, but it's not perfect. It has its flaws. Within the past year, when this car has like 50,000 miles in it, I've had to replace my throwout bearing. I've had to take off the front timing cover and reseal it. I've had to replace my oil control valves because I kept getting a check engine light for it. And then I just recently got a statement from Subaru. If you guys are aware of this, there's a recall for these cars now for the 2013 models because they put in bad valve springs. So within like the past year, there's already like 4 things that I have to do to my car to fix it. And then for the valve spring one, I don't even want to do that because we all know if you take your car to the dealer, especially for something where they have to take the whole engine out, they're probably not going to do a good job. I've already seen people who have done it and they come back with leaking oil from their front timing cover because they have to take that off again and the car's just not running the way it's supposed to. So I definitely don't want to do that. And I also have a turbo on my car, so there's no way I expect Subaru to know how to put that all back together correctly. And then so I was just like, I'm just better off not doing that recall at all for the car because the car is working fine now. I'm not going to risk them messing it up. But then again, there's always that lingering feeling in the future that something might happen with the valve spring and, you know, something might go wrong. Like especially the early models of this car, they just have just these really bad issues that they shouldn't really have. But there's one thing I did learn, it's not to buy a new version of a car when it first comes out. And what I mean by that is, this car first came out in 2013. So when this car first came out, I got this car. This is like the first model of the car that came out. And the reason why I suggest you don't do this is because the first models of the car are usually the ones that have the issues. And it isn't until the later models that the people like Subaru and Toyota are like, oh, this is an issue. When the new model comes out, we'll fix this issue. That's when they start really fixing things and then you're stuck with the model with all the issues. So for everyone out there who's thinking like, oh, I can't wait to get the 2020 Supra, I promise you, just wait like 3 years, wait for like 3 years later for the newer model. Because I promise you the first model that comes out is going to have issues. There's not enough testing done. There's not enough people who own the car. You know, it's just, they're not going to know what's wrong with the car until it's out there on the street and more people own it. And that's when they realize, oh, we did this wrong. So yeah, reliability was honestly a huge factor in deciding of whether or not I should trade this car in. And honestly, if I had like a later model BRZ without these issues, and if I had the garage space and if I had the money, I would definitely keep this car around because this car is so close to being perfect. If it just didn't have any issues, you can have a car that's perfect for you for when you drive it. Like you drive this car and you're in love with it, you love driving it every day, and it's just the perfect experience. And that's what I have with this car. But the worst feeling is when you have that perfect car, but you're unable to drive it because you're worried about it having issues in the future. You're worried like, oh, if I drive it for this week, what will happen next week? Will something go wrong again? And that's the feeling I've been having. Like, I've been scared to drive this car because I don't want anything to happen to it. I don't want another check engine light to turn on. I don't want something to go wrong again. And that's the worst feeling in the world, when you have that perfect car that you can't drive. And that's gonna bring me to my last and final reason of why I'm getting rid of this car. And that's because I found a really good deal on another car that I really want also. And I can't keep both. For anyone who's ever been car shopping before, this is one of those deals you see and you're like, this is a steal, it's too good to be true. And you know when you see this deal, you're like, if I don't take this offer now, I'm never gonna see another offer like this for a long time. So I saw this offer and I went to go check the car out. Everything was good. And then, you know, I went back a week later. I brought my car and I was like, hey, what would you guys give me for my car? And they gave me a pretty good trade-in value for my car. And, you know, my dad and I were like, you know, this is a pretty good deal for the car. I mean, I could honestly get more for my car on a private sale. I know that. Because for trade-in, they always lowball you, but their trade-in value was actually higher than I thought they would give me for my car, especially with all the modifications I've done. Like, I was expecting them to not like even care. They're gonna be like, no, we're not taking this. You've done all this stuff to the car, but they gave me a pretty good price and it was higher than what I was expecting them to give me for it. And I could do private sale, but for me to sell this car on private, it would probably take me like 3-4 months to find a buyer who's willing to get it. I know if I waited those 3-4 months, the other car would have been gone by then. So I just had to bite the bullet and say, all right, I'll just take the deal. It wasn't a deal I wanted to pass up. But it's not all sad times and clouds and, you know, all that depressing stuff. I am getting a new car and it should be here tomorrow. So if everything goes well, the car will be here tomorrow. And you know, it's pretty different, but if you guys want a little hint of what kind of car it is, I'll give you guys a pretty good hint. I would say my BRZ is probably like the baby version of the car I'm getting. Like this next car is probably like the better version of the BRZ. They're pretty similar, but they're also pretty different at the same time. So that's the only hint I'm gonna give you guys. And last thing I wanna say before I end off this video is, you know, I just hope whoever ends up getting my car in the future, that they take care of it and that they enjoy it, that they have fun with it. I have a feeling that this car is probably just gonna end up going on auction somewhere, but I hope maybe one day I'll figure out who owns the car and I'll hit them up and I'll just ask them like, hey, how's the car and everything, and just you know, just to keep track of it. And then who knows, maybe 10-15 years from now, Toyota and Subaru will do a reboot of this car like they did for the old 86 and how they're doing for the Supra now. I'll probably get it at that point. Like 10-15 years from now, if they do a reboot, I'll definitely probably get the reboot of the BRZ, because for a first car, this car was amazing. And yeah, it's just a great car. That's gonna do it for today's video, guys. I'm probably gonna do a quick little slideshow at the end of my car and where it's been the past like 6 years that I owned it and how like I built it and everything. So it's gonna be a quick little slideshow of that stuff. In the next video, the BRZ won't be here and there'll be a new car, so stay tuned for that. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.